everybody, welcome back to Shane's Squirrel Shack, where we talk about autism awareness and all of that. Thank you so much for tuning in to another video, and in this one we'll be talking about autism and the 5 senses. So as someone who's on the spectrum, and kind of speaking for all of us, we tend to be a lot more sensitive to various parts of the 5 senses than others. In my videos, I kind of like to talk about the whys and why an autistic responds the way they do towards the given noticeable traits that someone on the spectrum has. This is one of those exceptions where I really can't say anything for the why, because all of us, whether you're an autistic or not, have certain sensitivities towards things based off the 5 senses, and that's based off of subjectiveness and all of that. But for someone on the spectrum, it's a little more heightened, it's a little more intense. And how we deal with it isn't as straightforward or as simple as it is for someone not on the spectrum. So our 5 senses: sight, taste, hearing, touch, smell. It took me a few takes to actually remember that, so I'm pretty proud of that. So I'm not going to say I've been affected by every part of the 5 senses as much as others, but I'll try my best to kind of go over how I was affected by each one, if I did any overcoming on any of them, kind of what I did to get from point A to point B. So we'll start with sight. Probably one of the ones I'm least affected with. Growing up, fluorescent lights was a little tricky with me, and that's something that's kind of been talked about with a lot of other autistics. They're kind of sensitive to this fluorescent light thing. And, you know, it was just getting adjusted to it and not thinking too much about it that eventually went away. So that's really all I got to say about that. What's next? Let's talk about smell. Another one that's not as much of an impact as others. Smell, and this will kind of go into taste. So I'm going to go right into taste after this, because these kind of go 2 and 2 together. So with smell, I just get really sensitive when I smell certain foods or certain condiments and sauces. So I don't really get sensitive to certain smells. Some of them just become very memorable to me and all of that, and that can be that could be the same with someone completely off the spectrum. It's all subjective. So with smell, like, some of the things that get to me is like barbecue sauce and ketchup. Those are that for me, essentially. Is just that. But I have this extreme disgust towards it. Like, I used to work, at like a food service gas station kind of place, and when I'd wash the dishes and I'd have to watch the ketchup nozzle things in the barbecue sauce, I would almost throw up. Like, when I would get to the barbecue sauce, like, I would gag. Like, I could not do it. I just couldn't. And, like, wow, it's just really silly things like that. And I'll be honest, I don't know how to overcome this one. I just do not like barbecue sauce and ketchup that much, especially barbecue sauce, that I will always have a distaste towards it, just like Chicagoans hate the Brewers and Packers. So that's what I gotta say about that one. This is just totally subjective more than just a sensory thing, I think, at this point for me, because I'm kind of laughing at it. But don't ever bring barbecue sauce into a room with me. I will just leave. I'll just leave. Okay? Anyway, so we're going to go on to taste. And kind of going right back into that, I think this is kind of a blend. So taste is one that probably impacts me the most to this day. And I'm going to make a video on this, and especially my food routine and all of that. That's going to be its own kind of unique video. But I've always been a very picky eater and a sensitive eater. I've avoided a lot of textures, really crunchies and all of that. I tend to have like a vanilla diet, and a very routine one. Most of the foods I eat is oatmeals, bananas, chocolate milk, peanut butter sandwiches, tortellini. That's it. That's it, really. Sometimes I'll get a burger or a sub sandwich, but even then, I can't have lettuce, ketchup, and onions and tomatoes or whatever on my cheeseburger. I can't do it. It has to just be the cheese. It has to be just the cheese. If they put it on, I get mad. I'm like ruffling through my French fried sides trying to get it all off. Get this off, And I think this one affects me the most to this date because it affects me in a social sense too. So like when me and a group of friends are trying to plan dinner and they're like, oh, we want to get Taco Bell, we want to go get spicy foods, we want to go to Qdoba. And I'm personally not a fan of Mexican food or really many Oriental foods, and that's nothing against any of that stuff, nothing against those who make it. I gotta be careful with that one. It's just totally subjective in how I respond to the foods. So, I'm very plain, very vanilla. So, I get really picky when people are like, oh, we're gonna go to this place that has spicy foods. We're gonna get spicy foods tonight. And I kind of go into like, I don't want to say panic, but like anxiety mode. It's like, well, how do I say I'm okay going but not okay eating? Because I'm totally cool if we go to these places, but I'm not going to eat. And it's hard for me to have that conversation when they're like, oh, why aren't you eating? Do you not like it, man? Kinda not. I don't know how to explain it. And maybe there's a sense of holding myself back because I don't try these foods. But again, I'm picky. This is just something predisposed with me. This is something that's still naturally very difficult for me. I'm not going to say, oh, I've overcome every little thing and I'm this reformed, rejuvenated, non-autistic person. Man, I'm still autistic and I still have things, and that's one of them. So, if you see me obsessing about bananas and chocolate milk, that's why. And for my friends watching this, y'all know what's up. Okay, going into touch. Touch is an interesting one. Touch is a really interesting one with me, and that's mainly sensory to certain fabrics and material. So, when I was in grade school and I would get really anxious, I would have this like really soft padding under my desk. So I would use that to help me calm down. So a lot of touch-based things were used to help me calm down. Like a bowl of rice, beads and beans and all of these things. More so growing up, but there was some in my clothing sense too. Clothing-wise, in middle school, I had this obsession of wearing a suit to school every day. A lot of it was I wanted to look like James Bond, but a lot of it was the texture of the clothing. I liked how it felt on me. It was based off of feel, and I got so comfortable with that. And it was one of those things that kind of made me stick out like a sore thumb. Funny enough, my middle school teacher made me sign a contract. He was like, by the time you graduate middle school, you will wear a t-shirt and jeans. And this gentleman was very monumental in my middle school years, trying to get me out of my comfort zone. He would take me to the grocery stores that I was afraid to go to, this and that. But eventually, after middle school, I showed up in t-shirt and jeans. So I think he really helped motivate me to get over some of my, touch-based sensitivities. And I still talk to this gentleman to this day, and he's a great guy. And, if you're watching this, you know who you are. Thank you for helping me overcome some of the obstacles that I faced. So thank you. Moving on to hearing. That's another one that's really affected me growing up and the one I overcame the most. So hearing was kind of the one that kind of was the big, oh, he's autistic thing from my parents. It was about 1.5 years when they started noticing it. And I would scream when the phone rang. I would just, I'm going to save your headphone users, but you get the gist. And I would just scream over the phone and any out of the blue noises and all of that. And when I got older, when I would have to go to assembly-based settings in school, I had to wear headphones. And there was another autistic in my school who did that, so it was really there was almost a stigma that autistics had hearing issues, and it was kind of true. And we kind of stuck out like sore thumbs. They're the different ones, they're the special ones. But I think a really huge turning point was when I was in band. 5th grade, I joined like the school ensemble. And at first, I had to wear headphones during every band practice, like the big muffled ones and all of that. And like eventually, that was kind of the thing that helped me kind of grow out of my hearing sensitivities was music. Ironically enough, the very loud thing that I was scared of for a bit was what helped me overcome this sensitivity, in a sense. And nowadays, like, it was music that, again, helped me get to the point where I'm at now, where I am a musician myself. I play shows, I play 7 instruments, I sing, I go on stage, and I'm in a very, very loud setting, but I'm okay with it. I get lost in it now. It's great. But again, it takes willpower, and it takes trying to get involved in something that you relate to, but can also be therapeutic to you. And I said this in a video before, if you're trying to overcome something, especially as an autistic, find something that you are into, or someone you know is autistic, find something that's repetitive to them, that they like, and slowly bring in some of those therapeutic measures in. Maybe make the sound a little louder. Maybe make them in that louder setting for a little longer. That's a mentality I used, at least, and that's what helped me. And that's where I will end it today. I don't want to go too long, and I don't want to, say more than I have to. So if you liked what you heard, if you think it could help someone out, give it a like, give it a share, give it my page a subscription. Any support would be greatly appreciated. And thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.